Kris Poole is an 18-year veteran of Toastmasters, having joined in April 2005. She currently belongs to 3 clubs, 2 in Wisconsin and 1 in California. She holds most officer roles between them, and she's VP Education in all 3 clubs. She does not recommend this for the faint-hearted. In her spare time, Kris is the administration manager for District 35 in Wisconsin and enjoys visiting clubs across the country, helping out when needed and getting ideas to incorporate with her clubs. Kris was the District 35 PQD when the pandemic hit. She started the year with officer training in Colorado and was going strong with plans for the spring conference. Then COVID hit and everything changed in an instant, and we all know what we had to do then. District 35 decided not to have any contests in spring 2020 and to learn from the other districts from the trials and errors and ultimate successes on virtual contests. 3 years later, clubs and districts continue to learn and improve the use of Zoom and other virtual platforms for meetings and contests, which leads us to our session this evening. Let's welcome our guest speaker, Kris Poole, who's going to discuss Zoom Master training for speech contests. Kris, you've got the floor.
Thank you so much, Janet. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am hoping that you have adjusted your screen so that I'm tiny on your screen and the Zoom Master training is nice and large. Thumbs up. Yes, yes, yes. All right, perfect. Zoom Master training for our speech contests. Every time I attend a meeting, every time that I visit another club who is meeting virtually, who is meeting hybrid, I pick up some new tidbit. In talking with Janet a little bit, she and I, we've been working together on a couple of meetings. She's seen how I interact online on Zoom, and we had the discussion of, Kris, can you come and present on Zoom Master training for speech contests? So I am your Zoom Master for this evening. I encourage you, if you have questions throughout our session, write them down, save them. I'll have several different times throughout the presentation for Q&A. I won't necessarily hold everything all to the end. Pop them into the chat box and we can go through them. Some of the questions you may have may end up being addressed later on in the session, so I'll let you know that one. Let's see, we have, if you didn't know anything about me based on that introduction, I love quotes. And here is your opening quote for tonight. Vernon Howard, always walk through life as if you have something new to learn, and you will. That's my motto. I should actually, well, I won't tattoo it anywhere, but this is what I need to put everywhere on my computer screens. Like I said, I visit clubs around our country. I visited a few out of our country. I always learn something when I attend. Different ideas of what we are going to be talking about tonight. What is the Zoom Master role? What are steps that you can take to prepare before an actual online or even a hybrid contest? What's going to happen when it is contest day? How are you going to let attendees in from the waiting room? How do you ask them to rename themselves? We have the mute, we have chat, we have spotlight, we have timer, we have breakout rooms. How are you going to handle all of these different responsibilities? And then we're going to end with some different ideas or some other ideas to consider. And I will have a whole list of resources just for you. What exactly is the Zoom Master? It's not the contest chair. It's not the contest master. Contest master works with those contestants. Your chief judge works with your functionaries. You have the contest chair who oversees it all. But the Zoom Master is there to help support your contest Toastmaster and chief judge. You are there as that Zoom Master to keep the meeting running smoothly, keep the contest going smoothly. You want to help eliminate and minimize any of those technical difficulties or those interruptions that have been, or that happen. Any of those Zoom bombers, we don't like those. You provide some of that continuity and uniformity so that all the contestants in your contest are going to shine. As the Zoom master, you have that option to have a team. It's not just you that you have to worry about. There's so many different pieces of this puzzle. You may want to have one or two assistants who can help you in different aspects. All right, we have our contest date. We know what contests are coming up. What are you going to do as that Zoom master before that contest even begins? First, we need to do a little bit of preparation on our Zoom settings. In my district, normally it is the district director, maybe one of the other trio members, or the division or area directors who are the ones who actually set up that Zoom meeting link. The Zoom master doesn't actually set it up themselves. But when you are that Zoom master, you need to communicate. Remember, Toastmasters, communications organization. Communicate, talk with whoever is setting up that Zoom room, setting up those links, because you want to make sure that whoever's account is being used, that the person has the most recent Zoom uploaded. You want to have that most recent version because then you can take advantage of all the extra little apps and tweaks that have happened in Zoom. All of your contestants, your functionaries, your attendees are also encouraged to make sure that they are using the most recent version available as well. You always want to make sure when you have a contest setting that you are using that paid professional, that pro account. The free accounts, they are set for a limited amount of time, and you do not want to run out of time and have to try and reconnect in the middle of a contest. When you are setting up your information, you want to enable your waiting room so that when somebody joins the Zoom meeting link, they are sitting out in this waiting room waiting for the Zoom master to allow them to come into the room. This lets you have a little bit of control if you still need to do additional setup. If you want to give information just to a contestants or just to the functionaries. Part of the setups also, you want to make sure that you are allowing both the host and the co-host to rename participants while they are in the waiting room. So at the start of our meeting, we were being asked to rename ourselves. So if we have that list of who our contestants are, if we have that list of judges, or if we see attendees coming in with inappropriate names, anything to that effect, as that Zoom master, you can automatically rename someone. And as the host and co-host of the Zoom, you want to be able to set up those breakout rooms, which are going to be needed for functionary contestant briefings, for your ballot counting. I believe your district is holding the table topics contest, so you need to have a waiting room, basically that breakout room for your contestants. Zoom Master should be meeting along with your contest chair and your other contest officials. You need to make some decisions of what's going to happen for your contest. Each district, each division, each area can make some of their own decisions. Sometimes it's going to be that district director saying, these are the protocols we want to set for our contests. Other times, whatever you guys decide to do that's going to work best in your contest, that's what you do. You need to make sure that you have a sergeant at arms appointed. Your sergeant at arms is going to go into the breakout room with your table topic contestants and then release one person, one contestant at a time for their speaking order. You want to find out for the breakout rooms, how many breakout rooms do you want or do you need? How do you want to name those breakout rooms? This is another one, signing a co-host. You have the contest, or you have that contest Zoom master. That's going to be the host. And now I know I said before, sometimes it's that district officer who creates the link. Whoever created the link is the official host. But when that person joins and then the Zoom master joins, that initial host should assign the Zoom master host duty. And now the Zoom master as host assigns that initial person to have co-host rights. Normally, you'd want to also make sure that your contest chairperson, the contest chair, and your chief judge are all co-hosts. This is going to come in very handy later on. I'm going to talk about disabling of the chat feature, and being a co-host is going to be instrumental in there. We also talked about the naming convention. How do you name your attendees? How do you name your functionaries, your contestants? I've seen some districts for naming convention that they have everyone's camera or their video turned off, but then they name themselves as Judge 1, Judge 2, Judge 3. Other contests, they just have the person's name and all the videos are off, because especially in our district, we know everyone. So it's unusual if you have Judge 1, Judge 2, Judge 3. Well, why weren't you at my contest, even just as an attendee? So that's one of those decisions you have to make. Cameras on or off, that's a decision that needs to be made. Usually having those camera off, other than the timer and the contestants and contest toastmaster at that moment, that will reduce the amount of bandwidth, will make the audio, will make the video go smoother. Do you want to spotlight the speaker, that contestant who's speaking? Do you want to spotlight the timer? Do you want to spotlight the contest toastmaster? Spotlight all the contestants at the end when you're announcing. You also want to verify with your chief judge and your ballot counters. How will that information be submitted? Are you involved as part of the Zoom master, involved in that submission of the ballots? Timing protocol, make sure that everyone is familiar with what is going to happen for timing, and how are you going to make sure that the timer is visible? Are you just going to do that electronic raise of hand so that the timer moves up into your speaker's upper left corner? Are you going to spotlight them? All different things that need to be taken into consideration. When you are meeting with your contestants, so this is not necessarily the Zoom master, but when that contest toastmaster meets with the contestants, they should be discussing that naming convention. So normally it would be the type of contest, speaking order, first and last name. So table topics, you have TT2, meaning table topics, second speaker, and then the person's name. ICS, International, should be ISC, International Speech Contest. ICS goes back to my incident management days. My apologies, but we're not all perfect here. For your breakout rooms, you want to, again, have those breakout rooms named a little bit. You would be having the contestants and your contest master and your timer in for your contestant briefing. And then in table topics, when you have, for those not familiar with how table topics is run, all contestants other than the first speaker are put into that breakout room along with a sergeant at arms. In that breakout room, the contestants need to have their videos on. The sergeant at arms needs to verify that the contestants are not using any electronic devices while in that breakout room, because you don't want somebody in the main room texting the question ahead of time or emailing that contestant what that question is, giving that contestant an unfair advantage. What we have done in our district is we normally will ask all the contestants have their video online and have their hands completely visible on their camera frame as well. That's something that you guys need to discuss how you want that handled. When the first contestant has finished speaking and you're in that minute of silence between speakers, the Zoom master communicates with the sergeant at arms in that breakout room to ask them to have that next speaker come on out to the main room. When a contestant leaves that breakout room, they need to be very careful. When they leave, you get two options: leave meeting and leave breakout room. They have to click leave breakout room to return back to the main room. Some districts, I found out, actually will disqualify a contestant if they leave meeting. So if they don't click leave breakout room, they click leave meeting, exit out, and then come back into the main meeting room, entering it again. Some districts will disqualify a contestant. That's up to your district to decide. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's up to your district. Same thing with those functionaries. How are you going to name them? Just their name? Do you want Judge 1, Judge 2, whatever it may be? Your breakout rooms. You're going to have a breakout room initially for your functionaries. You're going to have one for the ballot counting where your chief judge and your ballot counters will go into. A room that's optional is a protest room. If the situation arises where there is a protest from a judge or a contestant, there needs to be room available for it. Additionally, you may want to talk about or schedule ahead of time. After a contest is done, do you want a breakout room for each person who has announced their candidacy for running for your district elected positions for 2024, 2025? If you do have that as an option, you want to have those rooms ready to go. And the same reminder for the functionaries: leave breakout room, not leave meeting. And when you are talking about those naming conventions, don't forget, rename yourself as that Zoom master and then your name. I have a couple of best practices I want to share. It is advisable, especially if you've not held the Zoom master role, if everyone is kind of new learning their roles for a contest, have a mock contest. You want to practice, you want to get comfortable with creating and opening and closing those breakout rooms, renaming the attendees. How do you want to spotlight individuals? How do you want to take pictures of contestants? At the club level, it's not necessary to hold a functionary and contestant briefing prior to the contest date. For the area division district, it can be a good idea to hold those briefings a couple days ahead of time. This way you're not rushing to pull anything together. You have plenty of time for questions. And then on the day of, just have a very short brief meeting, go over the audio, go over the process for collecting ballots. All right, it's contest day. The excitement is here. Are you ready? Make sure that you are arriving early. You want to be there before any other attendees get there. Make sure that all of your settings are correct. Make sure that you are working with whoever initially set up that Zoom room link, that you are getting that host rights submitted for you, and then you can assign co-host rights to others as needed. Make sure you're in a position with good internet and Wi-Fi connection as much as possible. You do not want to be trying to do this role while in your car and have to drive from parking lot to parking lot to get a good connection. And I say that, you might be joking or thinking I'm joking. I have seen this from contestants in a contest. I have seen it from speakers in meetings. not a very good impression. If possible, make sure that as the Zoom master, you have an actual desktop setup, a laptop, or an actual power and computer. And I love having dual monitors. Makes it a little bit easier to go through and see what's happening in all the areas. When you get logged in, you want to check your security settings at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So you have your mute, stop video, security. Click on security and you get a pop-up menu. You want to make sure that you check and that the waiting room is enabled. You also want to check the hide profile pictures option. What this does, if somebody they do not have their video on, it will just simply be whatever their name is. There's not a picture of them. There's not a picture of the teddy bear, which is what I used to have for mine. There is nothing other than the name, nothing to distract a contestant. You also want to go to the bottom of your menu again and click on participants. When you come into participants area, you want to make sure that when people are in that waiting room, so they've joined the main Zoom link, now they're in that waiting room, that holding area, waiting for you to say, come on in. Communicate with all of your functionaries and whoever is all organizing your event. What is going to be the order that you will admit people into that contest? As Zoom master, I'd like to request and have a list of who are all of my functionaries, what is their specific role, who are all of the contestants, which contest are they in. Some others will disagree with my wanting this information as a Zoom master, but for me, this helps me to know I want my contest chair, contest master, chief judge in as soon as possible when they arrive. If we have the contestants briefing starting at a certain time, we want them to come in, we want to get them moved to that breakout room. Our judges and the other contest functionaries, what time do we want them to come in and then move them into another room? Guests or the other attendees. You probably have one or two of those people. Contest starts at 9. They are online waiting to get admitted into the room by 8:01. They are going to sit and wait in that waiting room. You can send a broadcast message to those in the waiting room. The general room will open and you'll be admitted at 8:55. The contest will begin at 9. Just to kind of keep that information out there. When you are ready, or you're looking at the person who's waiting to get into that admission into the main room, there's going to be that little blue button, admit. So you can just click it, it immediately brings the person into your main room. You can also click that view button to the right of their name. Clicking view is going to give you the option to change what their name is. So for Felicia, maybe I don't want her name on there. I know that she's a judge. Maybe I want to rename her as Judge 1. When you come in to rename, you get a little pop-up window, your participants. So you can click the ellipsis to also change their name, however you want. So when you click that ellipsis, and the ellipsis, those 3 little dots, anywhere you see that on your Zoom screen, the ellipsis is your friend. It's going to give you more actions, more options. So you click on that little, those 3 dots, and you can rename the person. Right above it is remove. If you are not familiar with this remove feature, if you ever get Zoom bombed, and this is another wonderful reason why you want several co-hosts, anytime if you were ever to get Zoom bombed, anyone who is set as a co-host can go into this participant list, click on the ellipsis for a person's name, click remove. You will get an option of remove from Zoom room, report to Zoom. You want to report this person and then why reporting the person. We don't need any flashers coming into our meeting. That's why I am removing them. Also, you can do a right click over a name, and it will usually give you that little pop-up menu, and you can rename someone. Designating your host or your co-host. You can either click on the ellipsis if it is there for the person, or if you want to, so we've got the little ellipsis over here for the person. You can then click on make host, or you can remove their co-host permissions. You want to, when you make those host or co-host selections, you will get a confirmation. Do you want to change the host to whoever it is? Make sure you click that yes button. Again, we talked about those renaming suggestions. Your choice also if you want to have your ballot counters renamed. Timer 1, timer 2 is your backup. Muting your participants. This is a huge responsibility. Oftentimes you will have people in your room, they are chit-chatting and don't even realize that their microphone is on. You want to be able to have that power to mute someone. You can mute them all, or you can just click on that ellipsis and you can mute participants upon entry. Or you can go through at any time. This mute upon entry, this is one of those pre-security settings that you also want to have. As soon as someone joins in the room, they are on mute. The chat box. This is something that I really suggest. During an actual contest, you want to disable and restrict the chat options. You don't want to have everybody going back and forth with conversations during a contest. It can get very distracting. You could have people inadvertently saying something. Oh, I know Janet's a judge. Janet, I hope you vote and put this contestant in as first place. That shoots down the entire idea of having anonymity with your judges. On the bottom row of your options, if you click on the caret in your chat feature, you will get a little pop-up window. And in here, those wonderful little ellipses, you can pick and choose who can send chats. Usually in a contest setting, I will only allow host and co-hosts. That means that if I'm a host and Janet is not a host, she is just attending as a member audience, but she wants to send a note out to a contestant, she cannot. She can only pick and choose the host and co-host. So it's very limited, something I highly recommend. You can spotlight the speakers if you're the host or the co-host over the individual person on their video. If you click on the ellipsis in their upper right corner, you can get the drop down and choose spotlight for everyone. You can actually spotlight multiple people at the same time. And so then you'll have those individuals on the screen. You just have to remember to take the spotlight off as well. Timer, and I know I'm getting close to the Q&A session or portion. The timer, we mentioned this, have them raise their hand electronically. Have them have their timing cards all ready to go. Some individuals they can't see the colors. They may be colorblind. That's why we have the text as well. Having the text nice and big makes it easier. 1 minute of silence between speakers, silence until all ballots are collected. Some districts have put a time frame on how much time the judges have after a contest. That's part of your communication again. We already talked a little bit about some of these best practices. Download the most current version of Zoom. Make sure that you have that host control for you. When you as the contest Zoom master, when you're online, smile, be happy because you are here and you're in control. You can send out messages to those in the waiting room or in breakout rooms. Depending on your style, depending on your personality and how many people are being expected, welcome individuals as they join. You can monitor the renaming of individuals and you can rename them yourselves. Work with the contestants, make sure that their quality of their audio and video are working. If you need to mute someone, do not be shy with that mute button. And take notes. I normally have a notepad right next to me. I have another screen up with my agenda so I can keep track of all the moving parts. Now I'm just going to kind of whip through our breakout rooms. Bottom of your screen, depending on your version, there may be a couple of ways how you can get to your breakout room. Sometimes you have an actual little breakout room. It's got the 4 little squares on it. Other times you have to click the ellipsis over the more icon to bring up the breakout rooms. When you are creating your rooms, you want to usually either assign manually or let your participants choose their room. Again, discussion items. Rename your breakout rooms, because if you just keep them as room 1, 2, 3, how do you know what's actually supposed to be happening in those rooms? When you hover near the room number, you have the option to rename or to delete that room. Rename it, contestant briefing, functionary briefing, whatever it may be, something simple, something easy. And then you'll also then want to make sure you open all the rooms. You can assign attendees to a specific room. Some individuals, they can, when you open that room, they know, boom, I can just click connect and join, we're good to go. Others need actual help. You have to physically assign them to a room. We already discussed the leave breakout room versus the leave meeting. Keep in mind, if you have already created breakout rooms, you want to create even more rooms, you actually have to close out all of your breakout rooms, have them all closed out, and then you can create some more. You can set up options for your breakout rooms. How much time, if you say, click the button to close your breakout room, 10 seconds, 5 minutes, how long does it to actually take? Close the room and kick those attendees back to your main room. All right, best thing to do when you are that Zoom master, practice. Get comfortable with this process. Whew. Okay, I lied earlier that I said I would allow Q&A in between different portions of this session. That did not happen. You realize that now. But let's go into some Q&A. What questions do you have for me before I do some of the final thoughts? Okay, Jennifer.
Question about restricting the chat rooms to only the host and the co-host. Does that mean that everybody in the meeting cannot chat with the host and co-host? Only they can do chats?
Anyone in any of the actual full attendees, so if you have 100 people in the room, 3 people are set up for host and co-host. Those 100 people can only chat with the host and co-hosts. The host and co-hosts can pick and choose and talk to anyone in chat. So they can go out to everyone, but the full audience can only come into those individuals. Yes, you will receive a copy of this presentation along with the list of resources and fun stuff like that. Yes.
I'm sorry, follow up to what you just said. So when you said that a dispute room is optional, if one of the people in the meeting, because I was in a contest one time and somebody did have a dispute, but nobody noticed it. So it didn't go through and the person probably should have been disqualified. So if you have a dispute room as optional, you choose not to have one, do you assign one of the host or co-host to make sure that they're really watching to see if there is a dispute?
So
That's hard.
sure. So if there is a protest and only the judges and the contestants in that contest can lodge a protest, the protest will normally go to the chief judge, but they can also go to the contest master. When those two positions, when they are made aware that there is a protest, they will basically stop if it happens in the middle of a contest versus during the ballot counting. The chief judge or contest toastmaster can make a decision. We're going to put a halt at our contest right now so we can confirm and go over this information. Most protests are going to actually happen during the ballot counting portion of the contest. Normally, when I'm chief judge, I will let my judges know if it's a regular handwritten ballot, just hand write on there, I have a protest against, or I just have a protest. So I will pull in that judge. I will ask the judge to join me in a breakout room. Sometimes we just, in my contest, we normally just have one or two, let's say, extra rooms. I'll pull that judge in, find out what the issue is. Sometimes it's an eligibility question from that judge. Well, the judge may not have realized, well, this person transferred here from another district. Yes, they have met all of the requirements. They've been a member, da 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 da, but that judge was not familiar with the person. So the protest, it's null and void at that point. Contestant, Mr. Contest Toastmaster, I have a protest against this other contestant on the originality. The chief judge would bring in the contestant that is protesting, who lodged that protest, bring them into a breakout room. So again, whether it's protest room or whatever it is named, chief judge talks with the contestant. Why are you lodging the protest? Well, this contestant, they basically took this whole Gallagher presentation from the 1960s. That was their speech. And only 25% of a person's speech can be other people's content, basically. Judge decides, or the chief judge, yeah, that's an issue we need to learn more about. At that point, then, the chief judge would pull in the contestant under question and all of the judges for the discussion. And then the contestant would leave the room. Chief judge speaks with all of the judges and they make a final decision. Is the contestant going to be disqualified for that originality or not? Does that help? Okay. Al, you have your hand up. And I know we need to, so this will be the
Yes, I
last
do.
question.
So I had a question about, it sounded like you're talking about briefing during the Zoom contest, but what about rehearsals the day before and times before? Because that's the way I've often seen it done. And
so again, each district gets to decide. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Your rest of your question?
Well, it was a couple of questions. The other thing was you were saying that people are sometimes disqualified due to if they leave the meeting instead of they leave the breakout room. So I'm just not familiar with it. So if they get disconnected, can the host tell if they were disconnected instead of just leaving? Because I've seen people, it's been open whether they can come back and finish their speech or not. But they've been policy about if it's within their time, they can come back and finish their speech or something.
That's going to be a discussion with your district, what specifics they're going to want. That's not one for me to decide on. For the contestant and functionary briefings, my preference is to hold those briefings a day or two ahead of time. That way you're not rushed the day of the contest. My district, they typically will hold the briefings on the same day as the contest. Briefings at 8:30 a.m., contest begins at 9 a.m. For me, I don't think that's enough time for a proper briefing. But again, that's going to be up to your districts, to your district leadership, or whoever is organizing that specific contest, what their preference is. All right. We are just about done because I am cutting into your break. You will receive this presentation. So you have a list of different resources. You'll be able to click on any of those links and get more information. Don't be afraid to be proactive. That's what I do a lot of the time. Go out on Google, Zoom, tutorials, Toastmasters, contest tutorials. There's a ton of them out there. So feel free, go out, check those out. And then I am hoping that each and every one of you learned at least one new thing listening to me ramble on here today. And if you do ever want to reach out to me, I'll have my contact information here available. I am on Central Time, but these are my different clubs. If you want to come as a guest to one of my clubs, that would be wonderful. That is all. You're done with me now. Back to you, Janet.
Let's give a big round of applause to Kris. Kris, thank you so much for enlightening District 18. We really appreciate your sharing all your knowledge. And I know there's going to be a lot of questions. We have contest season is coming up. So we look forward to receiving the paperwork, and we will also have the recording posted as soon as it's available.